Hello, and welcome to the latest episode of KRAD COVID Readings. I'm Keith R.A. DeCandido, reading my writing to entertain you during our pandemic craziness. Today I'm going to be reading the second of, actually technically the first of my two stories, featuring a young woman named Connie de Vega. I'd already read one of the stories, which was in an anthology called Footprints in the Stars. The two Connie stories actually both came out at exactly the same time, but the one I'm going to read you today, which was in this anthology, Brave New Girls, Adventures of GALS and GIZMOS, is the one I wrote first, and takes place before the puzzle, which I had read earlier in the series. Brave New Girls is a series of anthologies edited by Paige Daniels and Mary Fan, and they are specifically about young women who are doing science. And these are charity anthologies, so anytime you buy a copy of any of the Brave New Girls anthologies, all the proceeds go to the Society of Women Engineers. I created the character of Connie for the story I wrote for this, which is called The Silent Dust, and I really enjoyed writing it, and immediately wrote another one for Footprints in the Stars. Both of them were actually released at the Shore Leave Convention in 2019, and I'm hoping to do more with her as time goes on. But meanwhile, here is The Silent Dust.
Give me the Aurora shunt.
Connie de Vega winced at the instruction from Alfie Balladimage. Alfie was an engineer for Kralnova Fine Repairs, the largest service contractor on the moon. Connie was the technician assigned to help him on this repair of one of the Nakadai lunar scooters, owned by the Wangan Park Delivery Service. "You don't want the Aurora," she said. "It never works right on the Nakadais. You need the Chang." Alfie turned and stared at her, brown eyes widening.
What I need is for you to not talk back, Technician de Vega, and give me the Aurora shunt.
Connie started to respond, then decided it wasn't worth it. Ostensibly, she was low-skilled labor, only qualified to handle menial technical skills and to assist the engineer, who was high-skilled labor, with a certification that said he knew his way around machines and computers and things. In reality, Connie had been playing with machines for as long as her hands were big enough to grip tools, and she'd spent most of her 17 years learning everything she could about engineering. She handed over the Aurora shunt silently, then watched as Alfie removed the non-functioning shunt and replaced it with the Aurora. Cynically, she thought that perhaps Alfie was deliberately using the poorer shunt because it would fail, and then Wangan Park would hire Kralnova again to do the same repair twice. After he replaced the shunt, he started to ask for a socket wrench, but Connie was already holding it out for him. He snatched it.
Give me a chance to ask for the tool first. You might get it wrong otherwise.
Haven't yet. Scowling, Alfie turned to apply the socket wrench to the nuts that covered the shunt. He did several more repairs to the main engine, Connie giving him the right tool each time before he could ask for it. Then he shut the hood before he tightened the manifold. "Aren't you going to?"
Are you questioning me, Technician?
Connie sighed. "That manifold's going to come loose if you don't tighten it." She didn't bother mentioning that he could have fixed the engine repair computer a lot faster if he just rebooted it.
The manifold's fine. Let's go.
The next day, Alfie and Connie got called into the boss's office. Michaela Kralnova sat behind her fake wooden desk. Nobody used real wood since the Oxygen Preservation Act of 2203, and glowered angrily at both of them with the teal eyes she'd had for the past few years. Connie had always wanted some kind of body mod, like changing her eye color, but they were so expensive. I just got mail from Park. She said that the lunar scooter that you guys fixed yesterday stopped working again today. Her exact words were, "Some idiot put an Aurora shunt in there. I don't know anything about mechanical stuff, that's why I hire you people, and even I know to use a Chang shunt and a Nakadai." Before Connie could say anything, Alfie said,
I asked for a shunt. The technician gave me an Aurora. I told her we needed a Chang, but she insisted the Aurora was better. She's always insisting on stuff. I just put the Aurora in to shut her up. He turned to look at her. Maybe if you just did as you were told and kept your mouth shut, we wouldn't have these problems.
Connie started, however Michaela interrupted. Technician Della Vega, in future, please do as the engineer tells you to do. Keep your opinions to yourself. Engineer Belittled is a certified engineer. But, Connie started. Now Michaela was looking at her monitor. Engineer Belittled, you need to go back to Langen Park and do the repair again. And no commission on this one since it was our mistake. I'm giving them the second repair for free so we keep their business. Connie winced. She only got a tiny percentage of the commission, but it was better than nothing. Can I have a new tech, please? One that knows her rear end from her elbow? That almost made Connie smile. If she got assigned to someone else, well, for one thing, that person might not be as big an idiot as Alfie, and also they'd be doing actual commissioned work. Fine, Michaela said. Take Technician Rothstein. With Engineer Bresci on vacation, he's got nothing to do anyhow. Thank you. Alfie got up from the guest chair and left. Michaela regarded Connie with annoyance. You're getting to be a real problem, Technician. I hired you right out of high school against my better judgment because your knowledge base is unusually broad for a teenager, but you're becoming a serious problem to me. You're assigned to Engineer Bresci for now. Connie squirmed in her chair, brushing a lock of thick, dark hair out of her eyes. Her hair never stayed in its ponytail for long. But he's on vacation. That's right. So you'll have time to think about just doing your job properly. Getting up, Connie said, I guess I'll go just sit around on my elbow then. That night, she sat in her rented bunk. It was a space inset into a wall that was 2 meters long, by 1 meter high, by 1 meter wide. It wasn't much, but it was what she could afford. And it gave her access to a bathroom that she only had to share with 25 other people. The bunk beneath hers was rented by a janitor at the Lunar Academy named Raisa Slavashevich, and tonight they sat in Raisa's bunk sharing an Instameal. They should just let you do the engineering work, Raisa said. You know that stuff better than they do, and it's what you've always wanted to do, right? It is, yeah, but I don't have the certification, Connie said in a long-suffering tone. She and Raisa had this conversation all the time. So who cares about some dumb note in your file that says that you took some dumb class that you taught you nothing that you didn't already know? Because without that, Connie said, the company and I are both liable. Let's say I do a repair job all by myself and I make a mistake. The client complains, they see that I'm not certified, and I get fired for doing a job I'm not qualified for, and the company gets dinged for hiring me to do a job I'm not qualified for. That doesn't even make sense. Raisa shook her head. You're totally qualified for it. The only way to prove that is to take a class that costs money. Connie smiled. And unfortunately, my financial portfolio is currently all tied up in food and shelter. That's messed up. Connie shrugged. It's life. The next morning, Connie went to the Kralnova morning staff meeting, mostly because that meeting always had free coffee and pastries. They weren't actually any good, but they were free, so Connie couldn't really complain about the burnt sourness of the coffee or the dryness of the pastries. Besides, she might be able to grab some work if one of the other techs called in sick or something. While giving out the day's assignments, Michaela's phone buzzed. Checking the display on her ring, she then activated it. Yes, Asano. The face of a man Connie recognized as Asano Kuroda appeared in holograph form over Michaela's ring. Kuroda was the deputy physical plant manager for the Tsukiyomi company, who owned the dome in which they all lived. Michaela, we've got a crisis on our hands. I need any people you can spare to head over to generator room 4. Connie frowned. Kralnova didn't have the maintenance contract for the dome's generators. Sure enough, Michaela asked, and why would I do that for free? It won't be for free. You'll be paid for your time, but please send someone, anyone, over right away, please. That surprised Connie. Usually when the muckety-mucks from Tsukiyomi wanted to hire Kralnova, they haggled over the price before going ahead. This really was a crisis. All right. Michaela looked around the room. Engineers Guarneri, Akingola, and Kim. You guys report to the generator room 4. Engineer Balladamage, the Maximus job shouldn't take long, so head there after your assignment. They all nodded and got up to leave. Connie uncharitably thought that Alfie would probably take longer than Michaela thought with Maximus, and wouldn't make it to the generator until it was too late. Thank you, Asano said. I'll meet them there. His face disappeared. Michaela gave out a couple more assignments, and then the meeting broke up. Connie approached Michaela, brushing a lock of hair out of her eyes. Why are you even here? The boss asked Connie before she could say anything. As long as Engineer Bresci is on vacation, I can go to Generator Room 4 and help out. Excuse me? I heard what you said. They want engineers. No, Mr. Kuroda specifically said people, someone, and anyone. He never once specified engineers. Fine, whatever. Go ahead for all the good you'll do. Connie ran to catch up with the 3 engineers who'd been assigned. Chan Kim looked at her in confusion when she caught up. What are you doing here, Techie? They said they needed all the help they can get. I might be able to help out. I don't see how, Chan said. But Ellery Guarneri said, I'll leave her alone, Chan. Another set of hands is always useful in an emergency. They arrived at the generator room. Kuroda was already there, and Connie noticed that in person he was sweating a lot more. Behind him were 2 other engineers, wearing jumpsuits with the Kansu logo. Kansu Incorporated was Kralnova's biggest competition, and they had the maintenance contract with Tsukiyomi. Thank you for coming, Kuroda said. The generator is overheating, and nobody can figure out why. By nobody, Connie said, you mean those 2 guys whose job it is to actually maintain the generator? Kuroda just stared at her. And you are? Before Connie could reply, Afio Akingbola stepped forward. She doesn't matter. I take it you've tried to shut down the generator? Nodding, Kuroda said, the shutdown procedure fails every time. In 3 hours it will overload and explode, and I don't think I need to tell you what that would mean. He didn't need to tell Connie, certainly. She knew that if the generator, which was on the southern end of the dome, exploded, it would do incalculable damage to the dome, hurt a lot of people, and compromise the artificial atmosphere inside. At least there wasn't an outgassing going on, as that would introduce all manner of lunar dust and atmospheric disturbances inside through the sudden hole the explosion would make. While Afio, Ellery, and Chan were proposing possible solutions, with Kuroda shooting them all down as things the Kansu engineers already tried, Connie was looking at the outer wall of the generator room. In particular, she noticed that the fan inside one of the vents wasn't functioning right. The fan in the vent, which was near one of the turbines, was designed to blow outward, clearing any dust particles out of the room and keeping any from getting in. Connie then ran off toward the nearest vending machine, which luckily wasn't out of orange juice. When she came back with the juice, Ellery was saying, we can check the connections between the turbine shafts. Sometimes they jam up over time. Kuroda was shaking his head. We checked that too, all 6 of them. Let's check again, just in case, Theo said, moving toward the generator. Sometimes. Chan, though, stared at Connie. This is a hell of a time for a breakfast break. Connie ignored him and moved right to the turbine near the vent, yanking open the access port to the turbine. What the hell is she doing? Kuroda asked. Technician, Ellery said, you shouldn't... Opening the carton of juice, Connie upended it into the turbine. Holding up a hand before Kuroda could say anything, Connie said, give it about 10 seconds, then try the shutdown procedure again. Are you out of your mind? Get that crazy woman out of here. Afeo moved over to grab her by the arm. Come on, Della Vega. Don't know why Michaela thought you should come along. Alfie said you were trouble, and I'm telling you right now that you're finished with Kralnova after this. We may need to evacuate, Chan said. Hang on, Ellery said. We might be able to fix it still. We could... But then suddenly, the generator made a whining noise, and the hum of the turbine subsided, and the indicator lights faded to darkness. After a few moments, the generator was completely silent. One of the Kansu engineers was standing at a console. She was right. I tried the shutdown procedure 10 seconds after she said. Worked like a charm. The lights, at least, were still on. The dome had 6 generators, precisely so that as many as 3 could go down without affecting the internal power, at least in the short term. But the generator itself was no longer overheating and in danger of exploding. Kuroda looked utterly baffled as he regarded Connie with confused awe. How did you do that? But the problem wasn't with the generator itself. It was with the vent near the turbine that I poured the juice into, Connie said. The fan wasn't at full strength. The last outgassing we had was really brutal, and there was no way that busted fan kept all the dust out. Most of it is microscopic, so you wouldn't see it when you examined it. Luckily, the citric acid will dissolve most of the lunar dust. It'll still need a good cleaning, but the juice got enough out so that it shut down properly. Good work, Ms. Connie palmed her hair out of her eyes. I'm Technician Consuela de la Vega. That afternoon, Connie sat outside Michaela's office. The holo was showing the Lunar News Service. According to a statement by Kansu Incorporated, the maintenance service usually retained by Tsukiyomi for the dome's generators, they were assisted by engineers from Kralnova Fine Repairs. A spokesperson for Tsukiyomi had this statement to make. The image switched from a newsreader to a woman in a suit. We're very grateful for the timely assistance rendered by Kralnova Fine Repairs. The Tsukiyomi Board of Directors has approved citations of merit to be given to engineers Guarneri, Kim, and Akingola for their excellent work in repairing the generator before it overheated. Connie sighed. The computer sounded over the wall speakers. Technician De La Vega, you may now enter Director Kralnova's office. Connie entered Michaela's office, fully expecting it to be her last time meeting with the boss before she was fired. That was how it always went on the part-time job she'd done while at school. She did the work, often doing much more than that, usually because she knew more than her supervisors, and then she got in trouble for it. Ellery, Chan, and Afeo were getting citations of merit for standing around with their thumbs in their ears, but she was going to get fired after being the one to actually fix it. Part of her thought she should tell this to Michaela, but what would be the point? She'd never listened before. Have a seat, technician. Michaela indicated the guest chair without looking up from her monitor. Connie sat and squirmed in the chair for several seconds before Michaela finally looked at her. I had an interesting conversation with Asano Kuroda today. He said that he's seriously considering recommending to the Tsukiyomi Board of Directors that they terminate Kansu's service contract and give it to us. Okay. Connie wished she would just get to the part where she was fired. There was one condition, though. I needed to provide him with a good explanation as to why technician Consuela de la Vega wasn't a certified engineer when she obviously knew more than the engineer she was supposedly there to assist. Connie opened her mouth, then closed it. It seems you impressed Asano. He's very hard to impress. I've been trying for years, in fact. I've pretty much given up on getting the generator contract away from Kansu, and then this happens. She leaned forward. I always got the impression that you didn't know your place. I'm starting to think that maybe it was that I didn't know yours. Maybe? Connie muttered. She had no idea how to respond to this. Tell me something, technician. Did you really give Engineer Baladimaj the Aurora shunt? Only because he insisted. I was the one who told him to use the Chang, but he wouldn't listen. Michaela nodded. I see. She folded her hands on her desk. Are you familiar with the Batnagar Technical Institute? Once again, Connie was rendered speechless. BTI was the most prestigious engineering institute in the solar system. I've enrolled you there in their next term. You'll do the classwork on your off hours while working here. Kralnova will pay your tuition on the condition that you continue to work for us as an engineer for the next 5 years after you're certified. That work for you? Connie struggled to find the right words. Thank you, she finally blurted out. Don't thank me yet. You'll be working your butt off. I expect you to continue to work your full hours here while you do the certifications online. I don't mind hard work, ma'am. I never have. Good. Michaela snapped her fingers. Oh, one more thing. She opened one of her desk drawers and pulled out a certificate. This is the citation that Tsukiyomi gave to Engineer Guarneri. He wanted to give it to you. His exact words were, I don't deserve this, and it should go to the person who does. Michaela held out the citation, and Connie took it with trembling hands. I thank you. I've never gotten anything like this before. Thank Engineer Guarneri. Now go take the rest of the day off. You've earned it for saving the dome. Connie nodded and left Michaela's office, staring at the citation. Ellery had used a stylus to blot out his own name and replace it with Connie, spelled K-O-N-N-I, Delay, Vega. For a moment, Connie was angry at the misspelling of her name, but that anger burned to ashes, replaced by laughter. Typical, she said. The computer asked, Did you speak, Technician De La Vega? Nothing, she said. Then she had her phone call Raisa. Raisa's face appeared over her ring. Hey, Connie. You have dinner plans tonight? Yeah, sitting in your bunk bitching about your stupid job. Not today. Today we're going to that Indo-Cuban place, my treat. Since when can you afford that? Since I actually have something nice to say about my job, Connie said with a grin. That's the end of the story. I also want to add one of the things that the Brave New Girls anthologies have asked is the authors to put their thoughts on Brave New Girls. So what I said specifically at the end was, I'm always eager to help out any organization that supports the notion that girls can be whatever they want to be when they grow up, not what people tell them they're supposed to be. Being part of this anthology series is an honor and a privilege, and I'm grateful to do my little bit to help the Society for Women Engineers. Like I said, there's only those 2 stories with Connie so far, but I'm hoping to do more. You can get Brave New Girls from all the usual online sources, as well as the blog at bravenewworlds.weebly.com, which has information about all the Brave New Girls anthologies. I think there's like 6 of them now. So check that out. Check me out online at DeCandido.net. My blog is at DeCandido.wordpress.com. My Patreon is patreon.com/KRAD. And please, please stay safe. Thank you.